The court ordered my sibling to show their phone. They destroyed it. The sound of my phone buzzing at 2:47 a.m. should have been my first warning that my life was about to implode. Instead, I rolled over in my empty apartment, the one I'd been forced to rent after the divorce, and squinted at the screen through bleary eyes. Holy shit, is this really about you? The text was from my college roommate Jake, followed by a link to something called Capital City T-Spills. My hands were shaking as I clicked it. There, in garish pink font, was a headline that made my stomach drop: local CPA's explosive divorce, secret gambling addiction, affair with client's wife, and the restraining order that says it all. Every word was a lie. Every single word. But the details. Christ, the details were so specific they could only have come from someone who'd been in my house. Someone who knew about the night I'd broken down crying to my mom about how Sarah wouldn't let me see the kids. Someone who'd heard me explain to my dad why I'd had to withdraw $8,000 from our savings, not for gambling, but for the lawyer fees when Sarah filed for divorce out of nowhere. I scrolled through the comments, watching strangers tear apart my character based on fabricated stories, and that's when I saw it. Posted just 3 hours ago. Trust me, there's so much more where this came from. This family is a goldmine faced with tears of joy money bag. The username was tspiller2024, and something about that laughing emoji made my blood run cold. My phone rang. Mom's contact photo, the one from last Christmas where we all still looked happy, filled the screen. Danny, please tell me this isn't true. Her voice was barely a whisper. Mrs. Henderson from down the street just sent me this link, and I can't breathe. Mom, none of it's true. Someone's made this all up, but they're using real conversations, real moments. The part about you crying in my kitchen last Tuesday, about the custody hearing, how would they know that? We were alone, Danny. It was just us. That's when it hit me. Last Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. I'd been pouring my heart out to Mom about how the judge had temporarily limited my visitation rights pending the custody evaluation. We'd been alone in her kitchen, but... Mom, where was Cameron? Your sister was upstairs, doing homework or something. Why? Cameron. My 23-year-old sister who'd moved back home after dropping out of grad school for the third time. Cameron, who'd been asking to borrow money every week for the past 2 months. Cameron, who always seemed to be lurking around doorways whenever I came over to talk to Mom and Dad about the divorce. I have to go, I said, already pulling up Cameron's number. She answered on the first ring, like she'd been waiting. Hey, big brother. Calling pretty late, aren't you? Her voice had that sing-song quality that used to mean she'd broken something and was trying to act innocent. We need to talk. Now. About what? About Capital City T-Spills. About the $847 you made last month from selling stories about your own family. I was guessing about the amount, but the sharp intake of breath on the other end told me I'd hit close to home. The silence stretched for 30 seconds before she spoke again, and when she did, the fake sweetness was gone. Prove it. The line went dead, and I stared at my phone, knowing that my little sister had just declared war on our entire family. I had no idea yet just how much proof I already had. I didn't sleep for the rest of that night. Instead, I sat at my laptop, diving down a rabbit hole that made me sick to my stomach. Capital City T-Spills wasn't just some random gossip blog, it was a legitimate operation. 3,000 followers, regular posting schedule, and a Patreon page boasting $1,200 monthly recurring revenue from exclusive family drama content. The About section made my skin crawl, your anonymous source for the real stories behind Capital City's most scandalous families. All T verified through primary sources and insider access. Submit your family's drama for compensation. I clicked through months of posts, recognizing details that could only have come from our family dinners, private conversations, even text messages I'd sent to my parents. There was the story about Dad's secret drinking problem, from February, twisted from the night he'd had 3 beers while stressed about his upcoming retirement. The post about Mom's emotional breakdown at the grocery store, from January, which was actually her crying tears of relief when she'd randomly run into her old friend Janet. But it was the December archive that made me want to put my fist through the wall. Exclusive, local family's Christmas meltdown, divorce bombshell ruins holiday magic. Posted December 27th, just 2 days after Sarah had blindsided me with divorce papers on Christmas morning in front of my kids. The post included details about Emma crying in the bathroom, about 6-year-old Mason asking why Daddy looked so sad, about my exact words when I called my mom from the parking lot of the law firm. Cameron had been selling our family's pain for 9 months. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah's lawyer, saw the blog post. This impacts custody. We need to discuss. Another buzz. My boss at Morrison & Associates, Danny, we need to talk first thing Monday. Clients are asking questions. Then another. And another. Word was spreading, and each notification felt like a nail in the coffin of my already fragile life. I was about to close the laptop when I noticed something in the T-Spills comments section. A user named Family First had been responding to several posts about us, defending our family and calling out the stories as lies. The account was only 3 days old, but they seemed to have inside information. The gambling story is completely fabricated, Family First had written. Daniel Mitchell has never gambled a day in his life. Someone close to this family is spreading lies for money. I clicked on the profile. No photo, minimal information, but something about the writing style seemed familiar. The way they used, completely fabricated, instead of just fake. The formal tone. Holy shit. It was Dad. My 67-year-old father, who just figured out how to send photos and text messages last year, had created a Reddit account to defend me in the comments of a gossip blog. I called him immediately. Danny. His voice was groggy. It's 5:30 in the morning. Dad, are you Family First on the T-Spills website? A long pause. How did you? Yes. I've been trying to set the record straight, but no one listens to reason anymore. How long have you known it was Cameron? Another pause, longer this time. Since March, when she slipped up and mentioned details about your marriage counseling that only family knew. I've been documenting everything, son. Screenshots, dates, amounts she's made. I was hoping she'd stop on her own, but she's gotten worse. Much worse. And Danny? His voice dropped to a whisper. I think she's been planning something bigger. She asked me about your old phone last week. The one you gave me to transfer to your new carrier. My blood went cold. That phone had everything on it. Photos, messages, emails, recordings from my marriage counseling sessions that I'd made for my own reference. Dad, where is that phone now? I gave it to her. She said you asked her to wipe it clean. The war had just become a massacre, and I was about to be the casualty. I hung up and immediately started calling every data recovery service in the city. The first 3 weren't open yet, but Data Rescue Solutions had a 24-hour emergency line. This is Marcus, a tired voice answered. What's the emergency? Someone has my old phone and they're going to use everything on it to destroy my life. Is there any way to remotely wipe it? Depends. iPhone or Android? Is Find My Device still active? My hands were shaking as I logged into my iCloud account. Please let Cameron be too arrogant to think of this. The phone showed up. Cameron's bedroom at my parents' house, last active 23 minutes ago. I can see it, I whispered. Okay, you can remote wipe from there, but fair warning, if she's smart enough to put it in airplane mode or turn it off completely, you're out of luck. I clicked the remote wipe option, watching the loading screen spin. Then, device offline. Wipe will commence when device reconnects to internet. Shit. Cameron had already thought of that. Sorry, man. If it makes you feel better, most people panic and screw up the timing. She'd have to keep it offline permanently to avoid the wipe. That's when I remembered something that made my stomach flip. Cameron wasn't just tech savvy, she'd majored in computer science before dropping out. She knew exactly what she was doing. I was about to lose everything. My laptop chimed with a new email. 4:47 a.m., from an address I didn't recognize, brotherdearest847@gmail.com. Danny. By now you've figured out that I have your old phone. I've been going through it all night, and wow. The voice memos from your marriage counseling. The text to mom calling Sarah a manipulative bitch. The photos you took of Sarah's credit card statements to build your case. This is going to make amazing content. But I'm not unreasonable. I'm willing to make a deal. $15,000, cash, and everything disappears. You have until Monday at noon to decide. Wire the money to the Venmo account linked below, and I'll delete everything. Don't try anything stupid. I've already backed everything up in 3 different places, and if anything happens to me, it all gets released automatically. Your loving sister. Cam. P.S. The marriage counseling recordings are particularly juicy. Did you know recording someone without consent is illegal in our state? Probably something Sarah's lawyer would love to know about. XOXO. The Venmo account was linked to a T-Spiller Cam. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. $15,000. Money I didn't have, and even if I did, there was no guarantee she'd actually delete anything. This was Cameron we were talking about, the same person who'd promised to pay back the $500 I'd loaned her for textbooks in 2019. I screenshot the email and forwarded it to my divorce attorney, Jim Patterson. Then I did something that surprised even me, I forwarded it to Sarah's lawyer too. If Cameron wanted to play hardball, she was about to learn that extorting your own family comes with consequences. My phone rang immediately. Jim's name on the screen. Danny, please tell me you didn't actually record your marriage counseling sessions without Sarah's knowledge. Yes, but only for my own notes. I wasn't planning to use them for anything. Jesus Christ. This just went from a family dispute to potential criminal charges. Sarah could press charges for illegal recording, and now your sister's committing extortion in writing. What do I do? You call the police. Right now. And Danny? Don't you dare pay her a single penny. As I dialed 911, I realized that Cameron had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She'd put her threats in writing, and she'd forgotten one crucial thing about her big brother. I'm an accountant. I document everything. And I'd been building a case against her since 3 a.m. The police station at 6 a.m. was exactly as depressing as you'd expect. Officer Martinez looked like she'd rather be anywhere else as I explained how my sister was extorting me with illegally obtained recordings from my own phone. So let me get this straight, she said, rubbing her temples. Your sister has been selling your family's private information to a gossip blog for 9 months, and now she's demanding $15,000 to delete recordings you made illegally during marriage counseling. When she put it like that, I sounded like an idiot. The recordings were just for my own reference, I said weakly. I never intended to. Mr. Mitchell, intention doesn't matter. You recorded private conversations without consent in a 2-party consent state. That's a felony. Great. So while Cameron was committing extortion, I was potentially looking at criminal charges too. This kept getting better. However, Officer Martinez continued, extortion is also a felony, and your sister was stupid enough to put it in writing. We can definitely pursue charges, but you need to understand, this opens you up to prosecution as well. I was about to respond when my phone buzzed. Another email from brotherdearest847@gmail.com, sent to what looked like 30 different addresses. Correction, new price is $25,000. Seems like someone can't follow simple instructions about keeping this private. Every person you involve doubles the fee. P.S. Hi Officer Martinez. Yes, I can see Danny's location sharing. Isn't technology wonderful? Officer Martinez stared at my phone screen. Is your sister actually tracking you right now? I checked my settings with growing dread. Location sharing was active with family group, which included Cameron. She'd been watching me all morning. This just became harassment and stalking, Martinez said, making notes. But Mr. Mitchell, turn off your location sharing. Now. As I fumbled with my phone settings, another email came through. This time it was sent to my boss, my ex-wife's lawyer, my parents, and what looked like half my contact list. Since Danny decided to involve the police in a private family matter, I guess it's time for everyone to hear the real story. Attached are some highlights from his old phone. Enjoy. 3 attachments, audio files labeled Danny underscore calls underscore Sarah underscore psycho.mp3, Danny underscore plans underscore custody underscore revenge.mp3, and Danny underscore admits underscore hiding underscore assets.mp3. My blood turned to ice. Those conversations. I remembered having them, but they were taken completely out of context. The hiding assets file was me explaining to my dad why I'd moved money into a separate account to pay legal fees. The custody revenge was me venting about wanting to fight for equal custody. And calling Sarah psycho. Yeah, I'd said that, but it was during a breakdown moment with my mom after Sarah had denied my visitation for the 3rd time in 2 weeks. Officer Martinez was reading over my shoulder. Mr. Mitchell, I strongly recommend you contact a criminal defense attorney. Today. My phone started ringing immediately. First my boss, then my mom, then Jim Patterson. I answered Jim's call. Danny, don't say another word to anyone. I'm calling a colleague who specializes in criminal defense. Meet us at my office in an hour. How bad is this? Bad. Your sister just escalated this to nuclear levels, but she also made another mistake. Sending those recordings to multiple people without consent. That's distribution of illegally obtained audio recordings. She just committed about 6 different felonies. I hung up as another email arrived, this one sent only to me. Enjoying the show, big brother. This is what happens when you try to play games with me. Wire $50,000 by end of business today, or the rest goes public. And trust me, what I've shared so far is nothing compared to what's coming. Your marriage counselor Dr. Peterson kept very detailed notes about your anger issues and control problems, didn't he? Funny how those recordings paint such a clear picture of an unfit father. Last chance to make this go away quietly. Cam. That's when I realized Cameron had made the biggest tactical error possible. She just threatened my kids. And I was about to show her exactly what an angry, detail-oriented accountant with nothing left to lose could accomplish. I was sitting in Jim Patterson's office at 7:30 a.m., staring at printouts of Cameron's emails, when his criminal defense colleague walked in. Rebecca Chen looked like she ate felony cases for breakfast and had zero patience for family drama. Mr. Mitchell, she said, settling into her chair with a stack of legal pads. Your sister has committed approximately 8 felonies in the past 4 hours. The good news is we have everything documented. The bad news is you're also looking at potential charges. What kind of charges? Illegal recording, invasion of privacy, potentially stalking depending on how you obtained access to her phone activities. She flipped through her notes. But here's what I don't understand, how did you know to screenshot her Patreon earnings and blog statistics so quickly? You had very specific financial information in your police report. I felt my face flush. I may have done some research. What kind of research, Danny? Jim's voice had that lawyer edge that meant I was about to confess to something stupid. Last month, Cameron asked me to help fix her laptop. Said it was running slow and needed a software update. I stared at my hands. While I was running diagnostics, I saw her browser history. All the gossip blog stuff, the Patreon account, spreadsheets tracking story ideas and payment schedules. Rebecca leaned forward. Did you copy any of that information? I maybe took some photos of the screen. For evidence. In case she ever did something like this. Jesus Christ, Danny. Jim rubbed his forehead. Please tell me you didn't access her accounts. Her laptop autosaves passwords. I didn't hack anything, I just looked around. The words sounded pathetic even to me. I found draft posts about our family going back months. Stories she hadn't published yet. And Rebecca, there were folders labeled with all our names. She's been planning this for almost a year. Rebecca made more notes. So you have documentation of premeditation. That's actually helpful for proving this isn't just a family dispute, it's organized fraud and extortion. My phone buzzed. Another email from Cameron, but this one made my stomach drop. Danny, since you're being stubborn, I thought you should know that Sarah's lawyer is very interested in the recording where you admit to following her to her sister's house to document her unfit parenting. Seems like stalking charges might be coming your way too. Price is now $75,000. Pay up or say goodbye to ever seeing your kids again. Cam. She's lying, I said immediately. I never followed Sarah anywhere. Rebecca held up her hand. Don't explain. Not here, not now. She turned to Jim. We need to hear these recordings before anyone else does. Danny, do you have any way to access what your sister downloaded from your old phone? That's when I remembered something that made my pulse race. Actually. I think I do. I pulled out my laptop and logged into my cloud storage account. When I gave my dad the old phone to transfer to my new carrier, I backed everything up to my personal cloud first. Just in case. So you have copies of everything she has? Everything. I was already pulling up folders. Including some things she probably doesn't realize are there. Jim looked confused. Like what? I opened a folder labeled AutoSync and smiled for the first time in hours. Like the fact that my phone was set to automatically record and transcribe all calls for business expense purposes. Including the call Cameron made to someone named Marcus Weber last week. I clicked play on a file labeled Incoming Call, Cameron Mitchell, March 15, 11:47 p.m. Cameron's voice filled the room. Marcus, it's Cam. I'm ready to move forward with that offer. Yes, I can get you exclusive access to the divorce documents and custody evaluations. Danny has no idea what's coming. The Riverside Tribune wants an exclusive. For $5,000. Hell yes. Rebecca and Jim exchanged looks. Who is Marcus Weber? Rebecca asked. I was already Googling. Marcus Weber, investigative journalist, Riverside Tribune. Specializes in local corruption and family court scandals. Cameron hadn't just been selling stories to a gossip blog. She'd been working with a legitimate newspaper to destroy my custody case, and I had the recorded proof of their conspiracy. My little sister was about to learn that sometimes the person you're trying to destroy has been 3 steps ahead of you the entire time. Rebecca was already on her phone, speaking in rapid-fire legal jargon to someone about emergency injunctions and criminal conspiracy. Jim was frantically taking notes as we listened to more of Cameron's recorded conversations with Marcus Weber. But it was the fourth recording that made me understand just how deep this went. Marcus, I've got the marriage counselor's session notes. Cameron's voice crackled through my laptop speakers. Dr. Peterson documented everything, Danny's exact words about wanting to make Sarah pay for the custody restrictions. Plus I found his journal entries about tracking her daily routine to prove she's an unfit mother. I felt the blood drain from my face. I never wrote any journal entries about tracking Sarah. And Dr. Peterson would never share session notes, that's completely confidential. Rebecca held up a finger, still on her call, but Jim leaned forward. Danny, focus. Is there any way Cameron could have accessed your therapy records legally? No, absolutely not. I never signed any releases, and I sure as hell didn't write anything about tracking Sarah. I was scrolling through my cloud backup frantically. But wait. There's something here I don't recognize. I opened a folder called journal_draft that I'd never created. Inside were 3 Word documents dated from the past 2 weeks, written in my supposed voice, detailing elaborate plans to stalk Sarah and document her failures as a mother. The writing style was good, disturbingly good. Someone had clearly studied my emails and texts to mimic my voice. She fabricated evidence, I whispered. Cameron created fake journal entries to make me look like a stalker. Jim grabbed the laptop. These files. Danny, look at the metadata. They were created on a computer registered to Cameron Mitchell, but saved to your cloud account. His face went white. She's been accessing your cloud storage. How long has she had your login information? The realization hit me like a truck. Christmas dinner. She helped me log into my cloud account on Mom's iPad to show family photos. She must have saved the password. Rebecca finished her call and turned back to us. I've got good news and bad news. Good news, the prosecutor is very interested in the conspiracy angle with Marcus Weber. Bad news, those fabricated journal entries have already been leaked to someone at Family Services. My phone rang before I could process that fully. Sarah's number. Danny, what the hell is wrong with you? Her voice was shaking with rage. I just got a call from my lawyer. Someone sent them recordings of you admitting to stalking me, plus journal entries about following me and documenting my parental failures. The custody hearing is moved up to tomorrow morning because they think you're a threat to the kids. Sarah, none of that is real. Cameron fabricated. Cameron. Your sister. Why would she? Sarah's voice cut off abruptly, and I could hear her talking to someone in the background. After 30 seconds, she came back. Danny, my lawyer just told me they received an anonymous tip with evidence that you've been planning to take the kids out of state. There are plane tickets purchased in your name for this weekend. What plane tickets? I was already logging into my email, my banking apps, my credit cards. Sarah, I haven't purchased any. I stopped mid-sentence. There, in my credit card statement, was a charge for $1,247 to Delta Airlines, posted yesterday at 3:22 p.m. 2 tickets from Capital City Regional to Phoenix, departing Saturday morning. Adult and child fare. I didn't buy these tickets, I said, but even as the words came out, I knew how insane they sounded. Rebecca grabbed a legal pad. Danny, hang up the phone. Now. Don't say another word to your ex-wife. But Sarah was still talking, her voice getting more panicked. Emma's scared, Danny. She asked me if you're going to take her away from me. My lawyer says with this evidence, you might not get supervised visitation, let alone custody. The line went dead, and I stared at my phone, watching everything I'd been fighting for slip away. Cameron hadn't just stolen my money or embarrassed our family. She'd systematically destroyed my relationship with my children by creating evidence that I was an unfit, dangerous father. And tomorrow morning, I'd have to walk into family court and somehow prove that my own sister had framed me for crimes I'd never even considered committing. Jim was already dialing a number. I'm calling our private investigator. If Cameron's been this methodical, there's got to be more evidence we haven't found yet. But I was thinking about something else entirely. Tomorrow was Thursday, March 21st. And I just remembered that exactly 1 year ago, Cameron had asked to borrow my laptop for a school project, the same week I'd first consulted with a divorce attorney. She'd been planning this destruction for an entire year. The private investigator Jim called was a woman named Sandra Torres who looked like she could intimidate answers out of a rock. She arrived at the office within 20 minutes, carrying a laptop bag and the kind of confidence that comes from catching cheating spouses for a living. Mr. Mitchell, she said, settling into the chair across from me, I've been listening to those recordings while driving over. Your sister made one critical mistake, she got greedy. Sandra opened her laptop and pulled up what looked like a financial tracking spreadsheet. I ran a quick background check on Marcus Weber from the Riverside Tribune. 3 weeks ago, he deposited $2,500 into a joint PayPal account registered to both him and someone named C. Mitchell Weber. Your sister has been using a fake married name to hide their business relationship. Rebecca leaned forward. That's wire fraud if they're crossing state lines with payments. It gets better, Sandra continued, clicking through browser windows. I also found Cameron's real social media accounts, not the sanitized ones your family probably sees. She's been bragging about this for months. She turned the laptop toward us, showing an Instagram story from @CamMitch_realness with the caption, Phase 3 of Operation Big Brother Takedown begins tomorrow. Smiling face with horn. Some people need to learn that family loyalty goes both ways. Money bag, money bag, money bag. Posted yesterday at 2:15 p.m., just hours before those plane tickets appeared on my credit card. Phase 3. Jim asked. What were phases 1 and 2? Sandra scrolled back through Cameron's story highlights. Phase 1 was establishing credibility with the gossip blog and building her income stream. That started last June. Phase 2 was gaining access to his therapy records and planting fabricated evidence in his cloud storage. That began in February. She paused on a story from February 14th, Valentine's Day, which felt like deliberate cruelty. And here's where it gets interesting. She posted a photo of herself at Capital Family Therapy Center with the caption, Research Field Trip. Sometimes you have to get creative to help family flex biceps. My blood went cold. She went to Dr. Peterson's office. According to her location tags, she's been there 4 times in the past month, Sandra said. I'm guessing she posed as you to request records, or maybe convinced someone she was helping with your case. Rebecca was already making notes. That's identity theft and illegal access to medical records. We're up to about 12 felonies now. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Having fun at your little lawyer meeting? The custody hearing got moved to 8 a.m. tomorrow instead of 10. Hope you're prepared to explain those plane tickets face blowing a kiss. Your loving sis. She's still tracking you, Sandra observed. Even with location sharing turned off. I checked my settings again, but everything was disabled. How is she? Danny, Sandra interrupted. When Cameron helped you log into your cloud account at Christmas, did she use your laptop or her phone? Her phone. She said it would be easier to airdrop the photos. The realization hit me like a sledgehammer. She installed something on my iCloud account. Sandra was already typing. Probably a family tracking app disguised as photo sharing. These things are designed to be invisible. She looked up at me with something like sympathy. Mr. Mitchell, your sister has been monitoring your location, your emails, your financial accounts, and your phone calls for over 3 months. This isn't just extortion, it's organized stalking. Another text came through. By the way, Emma's teacher Mrs. Rodriguez got some very interesting recordings about Daddy's anger problems. Apparently the school has concerns about your mental stability. Funny how these things snowball, snowflake. That's when I snapped. Not violently, but something inside me shifted from defensive to offensive. Cameron had involved my 7-year-old daughter's teacher in her scheme. Sandra, I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded, how quickly can you trace financial transactions? Because I want to know exactly how much money Cameron has made from destroying my life. Every penny, every payment, every transaction. Give me 2 hours. Rebecca, what's the maximum sentence for conspiracy, extortion, wire fraud, and stalking in this state? 15 to 20 years if we can prove organized criminal activity. I looked at both women, then at Jim, who was watching me with something like pride. Good, I said. Because Cameron just made her biggest mistake yet. She threatened my daughter's sense of safety at school. It was time to stop playing defense and show my little sister what a methodical, detail-oriented accountant could do when someone threatened his children. The war was about to become a rout. Sandra worked through the night, and by 6 a.m. Thursday, 2 hours before my custody hearing, she had assembled a financial trail that made my head spin. We met at Rebecca's office, surviving on coffee and pure adrenaline. Your sister has made $34,847 in the past 9 months, Sandra announced, spreading printouts across the conference table. But here's the kicker, she's been paying taxes on none of it. The IRS is going to be very interested in this unreported income. She pointed to a highlighted spreadsheet. The payments from Marcus Weber alone total $12,000. Capital City T Spills has paid her $8,200. But look at this, there's a third revenue stream I haven't seen before. My stomach dropped as I read the transaction descriptions. Anonymous Family Insider, $500. Exclusive Divorce Intel, $750. Real-time court updates, $1,200. She's been selling information to multiple sources, I realized. Not just the blog and the newspaper. Sandra, what's Family Court Watch? Sandra pulled up a website that made my vision blur. Family Court Watch claimed to be a transparency advocacy group that exposed judicial bias and custody corruption. The featured story, posted at midnight, had my full name in the headline, Local Father Stalking Behavior Exposed, How One Man Gamed the System Until Technology Caught Him. The article included photos of the fabricated journal entries, transcripts of my therapy sessions that had been edited to remove all context, and a timeline of my supposed escalating threats against Sarah. At the bottom was a quote from an anonymous family source close to the situation. Danny has always had control issues, says a relative who asked not to be named. The whole family has been walking on eggshells around him for years. We're just relieved Sarah and the kids are finally safe. Rebecca looked murderous. This website has 50,000 subscribers. Danny, this story has been shared 1,200 times since midnight. My phone rang. Jim Patterson's name on the screen. Danny, emergency. Judge Morrison's clerk just called. Someone sent the court a USB drive containing additional evidence about your case. The hearing is being moved to Judge Richardson's courtroom. He handles high-risk domestic cases. What does that mean? It means they think you're dangerous. Richardson typically orders supervised visitation in a neutral facility while investigations are pending. You might not see Emma and Mason at home for months. I hung up and stared at the evidence spread across Rebecca's table. Cameron had outmaneuvered me at every turn. Even with all our documentation of her crimes, she'd managed to poison the narrative so thoroughly that I looked like the threat. There's one more thing, Sandra said quietly. I traced that joint PayPal account deeper. Cameron and Marcus Weber have been planning something called Project Family Court Reform. Based on their email exchanges, they want to use your case as the foundation for a series exposing dangerous fathers who manipulate the custody system. She handed me a printed email dated last week. Cam, the Tribune's legal team loves this story. If we can get the court to impose supervised visitation, we'll have proof that the system works when evidence is properly presented. Could be a Pulitzer opportunity. Keep documenting everything. Marcus. They're using my children as props for a journalism award, I whispered. That's when my phone buzzed with a text from Cameron herself. Hope you're ready for court, big brother. I'll be in the gallery, taking notes for the follow-up story. Don't worry, I'll make sure Emma and Mason understand why Daddy can't live with them anymore. Man-Judge newspaper. She was planning to attend my custody hearing. To watch our father-daughter relationship get destroyed by her lies, in person, for content. I looked at Rebecca and Sandra, both watching me with expressions of grim determination. Change of plans, I said. We're not just defending anymore. It's time Cameron learned that when you declare war on an accountant, you better make sure your books are clean. The hearing was in 90 minutes. Time to end this. Judge Richardson's courtroom felt like a gladiator arena at 7:45 a.m. Sarah sat across the aisle with her lawyer, refusing to make eye contact. I could see the fear in her posture, genuine fear that I might actually be the dangerous stalker Cameron had painted me as. That hurt worse than anything my sister had done yet. Rebecca squeezed my shoulder as we took our seats. Remember, we're not just defending today. We're setting up Cameron's arrest warrant. Detective Williams from the cybercrime unit was seated in the back row, along with Sandra and a prosecutor named Janet Kim who specialized in family exploitation cases. We'd spent the early morning getting everything in order for what Rebecca called the reveal. But Cameron wasn't there yet, and that worried me. At 7:52 a.m., she strolled in wearing a navy blazer and carrying a leather portfolio like she was covering a city council meeting. She had the audacity to smile and wave at our parents, who looked like they'd aged 5 years overnight. Mom had been crying, I could tell even from across the room. Cameron slid into the gallery directly behind Sarah's table and pulled out an iPad, opening what looked like a voice recording app. She was actually planning to document my custody hearing for her next story. Judge Richardson entered at exactly 8 a.m., looking like a man who'd already decided I was guilty of something. His first words confirmed my fears. Mr. Mitchell, I've reviewed the evidence submitted to this court, including audio recordings and documentary evidence suggesting concerning behavior toward your ex-wife and children. Before we proceed with testimony, I want to give you the opportunity to address these allegations. I stood up, my legs shakier than I'd expected. Your Honor, I believe the evidence you've received was fabricated as part of an extortion and identity theft scheme orchestrated by my sister. Cameron's head snapped up from her iPad, and for the first time, she looked genuinely surprised. That's a serious accusation, Mr. Mitchell, Judge Richardson said. Do you have proof of this alleged scheme? Rebecca stood. Your Honor, we request permission to present evidence of an ongoing criminal conspiracy that directly relates to the fabricated material submitted to this court. Sarah's lawyer immediately objected. Your Honor, this appears to be a desperate attempt to deflect from clear evidence of stalking behavior. Actually, interrupted a voice from the back of the courtroom, we'd like to clarify something about that evidence. Detective Williams approached the bench, carrying a manila envelope. Your Honor, I'm here regarding an active cybercrime investigation. The USB drive submitted to this court yesterday was also delivered to 5 local news outlets and multiple social media accounts. The coordinated distribution suggests this is part of a larger harassment campaign. I watched Cameron's face go pale as Detective Williams continued. We've traced the financial transactions related to this campaign. Over $34,000 in unreported income from selling private family information, including fraudulent access to medical records and fabricated evidence planted in cloud storage accounts. Judge Richardson looked from the detective to Cameron, who was now frantically typing on her iPad. Ms. Mitchell, I assume you're the sister in question. Cameron stood up, and I could see her calculating whether to lie or run. Your Honor, I'm here as a journalist covering. You're here as a defendant, Detective Williams interrupted, pulling out handcuffs. Cameron Mitchell, you're under arrest for conspiracy, extortion, wire fraud, and cyberstalking. The courtroom erupted. Sarah spun around to stare at Cameron in shock. My parents looked devastated. And Cameron? Cameron finally realized she'd been outsmarted by the brother she thought was too broken to fight back. This is harassment, she shouted as Detective Williams cuffed her. Danny's the criminal here. Ask him about the therapy recordings. We did, Rebecca said calmly, standing to address the court. Dr. Peterson confirmed that his session notes were stolen, and the recordings were edited to remove context. We have the original, unedited versions. As Cameron was led away, still shouting about press freedom and family betrayal, Judge Richardson turned back to me. Mr. Mitchell, it appears we need to completely reevaluate this case. The relief I felt watching Cameron get arrested lasted exactly 37 seconds, until Sarah's lawyer stood up with a new folder in his hands. Your Honor, while we appreciate the investigation into Ms. Cameron Mitchell's activities, the core custody concerns remain unchanged. Regardless of how the evidence was obtained, Mr. Mitchell did make those recordings without consent, and did write detailed observations about my client's daily routines. My stomach dropped. Rebecca had warned me this might happen. Even if Cameron fabricated some evidence, the legitimate recordings I'd made were still illegal. Judge Richardson frowned. Mr. Patterson, how does your client explain the therapy session recordings? Jim stood carefully. Your Honor, those recordings were made for personal note-taking purposes during a difficult emotional period. Mr. Mitchell had no intention of using them in legal proceedings. But he did create detailed documentation of his ex-wife's schedule and activities. I felt Rebecca's hand on my arm, warning me to stay quiet, but I couldn't let Sarah keep believing I was some kind of stalker. Your Honor, may I explain? I said, standing despite Rebecca's warning look. The detailed observations about Sarah's routine were actually notes I made when she was denying my scheduled visitation. I documented when she was home but claimed to be unavailable, or when she took the kids to activities during my court-ordered time. Judge Richardson consulted his notes. You photographed her car in various locations? Yes, sir. 3 times when she told me the kids were sick and couldn't visit, but then posted Instagram stories of them at the mall and Chuck E. Cheese. I pulled out my phone. I still have the screenshots showing the timestamps. Sarah's lawyer shifted uncomfortably, and I caught Sarah whispering urgently in his ear. Additionally, Rebecca interjected, we've discovered that Ms. Cameron Mitchell gained access to Mr. Mitchell's cloud storage and social media accounts months ago. She's been monitoring his communications and using that information to stay one step ahead of his legal strategy. Sandra stood up from the gallery. Your Honor, as part of our investigation, we found evidence that Ms. Mitchell contacted Mrs. Sarah Mitchell multiple times over the past 2 months, sharing selective excerpts from her brother's private communications. Sarah's face went bright red. She said she was worried about Danny's mental state. She showed me texts where he seemed angry and unstable. Texts taken out of context, Rebecca said. Ms. Mitchell would share a screenshot of Mr. Mitchell venting about custody frustrations, but delete the messages before and after that showed he was simply expressing normal divorced parent concerns. Judge Richardson looked increasingly annoyed. So we have one sibling illegally recording therapy sessions, another sibling stealing and manipulating private communications, and an ex-wife who may have been unknowingly participating in harassment based on fabricated evidence. That's correct, Your Honor, Rebecca confirmed. We're requesting that all evidence obtained through Ms. Cameron Mitchell's illegal access be thrown out, and that the custody evaluation proceed based solely on legitimate factors. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I made copies of everything before they arrested me. Your kids will know what kind of father you really are. See. I showed the message to Rebecca, who immediately flagged Detective Williams. Even in handcuffs, Cameron was still trying to destroy my relationship with Emma and Mason. Judge Richardson sighed deeply. I'm ordering a complete restart of this custody evaluation with a new court-appointed evaluator. All previous evidence is thrown out except for basic financial and housing stability documentation. Mr. Mitchell, while your recording of therapy sessions shows poor judgment, it appears you were the victim of a sophisticated harassment campaign. He turned to Sarah. Mrs. Mitchell, you'll need to be interviewed about your communications with Cameron Mitchell. This court needs to understand how the fabricated evidence influenced your custody requests. As the hearing adjourned, Sarah finally looked at me directly. For the first time in months, I didn't see fear in her eyes, just exhaustion and confusion. Danny, she said quietly as we gathered our papers, did Cameron really make all this up? The fact that she had to ask told me everything about how thoroughly my sister had poisoned our family. The real battle was just beginning. 3 hours after Cameron's arrest, I was sitting in my car outside Emma's school when my phone rang. Dr. Peterson's name on the screen made my pulse spike. Mr. Mitchell, I need to speak with you immediately. Can you come to my office? Dr. Peterson, if this is about the recordings, my lawyer said. It's not about the recordings. His voice was tight with anger. It's about what your sister did to get access to them. 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from my former marriage counselor, watching him flip through what looked like official documents with growing horror on his face. Danny, 3 weeks ago, a woman claiming to be your new attorney came to my office with papers requesting your complete file for your custody case. He slid a form across his desk. She had your signature, your social security number, and detailed knowledge about our sessions that only you should have known. The signature looked perfect. Even I might have believed I'd signed it. I followed protocol and called the law firm listed on the letterhead to verify, Dr. Peterson continued. Patterson and Associates confirmed they were representing you, and that Jennifer Cameron was a junior associate working on your case. My blood went cold. Jennifer Cameron. She said she went by her middle name professionally. Danny, she sat in my waiting room for an hour, took photos of other patients' appointment schedules, and asked my receptionist detailed questions about our privacy policies. He rubbed his temples. I handed over 6 months of session notes to your own sister, and she convinced my staff she was trying to help you. I stared at the forged documents, recognizing Cameron's meticulous planning. She hadn't just stolen my therapy records, she conducted surveillance on Dr. Peterson's entire practice. There's something else, he said, opening another folder. After she got the files, Jennifer Cameron, your sister, called me twice asking about clarification on specific sessions. She was fishing for information about other patients who might have similar family situations. Other patients? Danny, I think your sister was planning to expand her operation. She asked about patterns in high-conflict divorce cases and whether I'd noticed common themes that might be useful for academic research. My phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca, emergency meeting now. Cameron made bail. She's not done. I showed Dr. Peterson the message. His face went pale. Mr. Mitchell, there's one more thing. When Jennifer Cameron was here, she spent a lot of time in the parking lot after our meeting. My security cameras show her following 2 of my other patients to their cars and photographing their license plates. The scope of Cameron's operation was becoming clear. This wasn't just about destroying me, she'd been building a business model around exploiting families in crisis. My phone rang again. Sarah's number. Danny, Cameron just showed up at Emma's school. The principal called me, she was trying to sign Emma out for a family emergency. She had fake ID saying she was Emma's legal guardian. I was already running to my car. Where is Emma now? Safe. The school knew about the custody situation and called me first. But Danny, Cameron told them you'd been arrested and that I'd asked her to pick up Emma because I was too upset to drive. I'm on my way to the school. Danny, wait. Sarah's voice cracked. I think I've been really wrong about everything. Cameron has been calling me for months, always after you and I had arguments. She knew things about our conversations that I never told anyone. She was manipulating both of us. As I drove toward Emma's school, my phone exploded with notifications. Cameron had posted a live video on Instagram from the courthouse steps, still in her court clothes but now playing the victim. My family has destroyed my life because I tried to protect children from an abusive father, she was saying to her phone camera. They're covering up evidence and using their lawyers to silence me. But I won't stop fighting for Emma and Mason's safety. The video already had 200 comments, mostly supportive. Cameron was spinning her arrest into a whistleblower narrative. She wasn't just coming for my custody rights anymore. She was coming for my children directly. I arrived at Emma's school to find 3 police cars in the parking lot and my 7-year-old daughter sitting in Principal Martinez's office, clutching her backpack like a lifeline. The sight of her confused, scared face made me want to put my fist through a wall. Daddy. Emma ran to me the moment I walked in. Aunt Cameron said something bad happened to you, but you look okay. I'm fine, sweetheart. Aunt Cameron made a mistake. I knelt down to her level, trying to keep my voice calm while my hands shook with rage. What exactly did she tell you? Principal Martinez intervened before Emma could answer. Mr. Mitchell, your sister presented what appeared to be legitimate guardianship documents. When we called your ex-wife per protocol, she immediately said something was wrong and contacted police. Officer Martinez from this morning's police report walked over, looking grim. Mr. Mitchell, we need to talk. Your sister didn't just try to pick up Emma. She also went to Mason's daycare 20 minutes before coming here. They released him to her. The words hit me like a physical blow. Where's my son? We're working on that. Ms. Mitchell's phone is off, and she's not at any of her known addresses. Officer Martinez showed me security footage on her tablet. Daycare cameras show her leaving with Mason at 2:17 p.m. He appeared calm, suggesting she told him something that made sense to a 4-year-old. Sarah burst through the office door at that moment, her face streaked with tears. Danny, I'm so sorry. I should have seen what Cameron was doing months ago. We'll deal with that later, I said, pulling out my phone. Right now we need to find Mason. I was about to call Rebecca when my phone buzzed with a new Instagram notification. Cameron had posted another live video, this one from inside her car. Mason was visible in the back seat, playing with an iPad. Since the corrupt family court system won't protect these children, I'm taking matters into my own hands, Cameron was saying to her phone while driving. Mason is safe with someone who actually cares about his well-being. We're going somewhere his father's lawyers can't intimidate witnesses into silence. The video showed highway signs in the background. Route 74 West, the road toward the state border. She's heading to Tennessee, Officer Martinez said, already radioing dispatch. Interstate kidnapping. This just became a federal case. Emma was crying now, not understanding why Aunt Cameron had taken her brother or why everyone looked so scared. Sarah picked her up, and for the first time since our divorce, I was grateful for my ex-wife's presence. My phone rang. Unknown number. Danny, we need to talk. Cameron's voice was eerily calm. I have something you want, and you have something I need. Cameron, bring Mason back right now. This has gone way too far. The boy is fine. He thinks we're going to Dollywood for a surprise vacation. Very excited about the roller coasters. I could hear Mason chattering happily in the background, oblivious to being kidnapped. But here's the thing, big brother. I've got USB drives hidden in 3 different states with everything I collected over the past year. Mason stays safe as long as those drives stay hidden. What do you want? $200,000. Cash. And a signed confession that you've been stalking Sarah and manipulating the custody case. Her voice turned vicious. You're going to destroy your own credibility so thoroughly that even when I give Mason back, you'll never see your kids again. The line went dead, and I stared at my phone while FBI notifications started buzzing. Emma was still crying in Sarah's arms, and Mason was somewhere on a highway with a woman who just proved she'd use children as leverage in her revenge schemes. But Cameron had made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated how far a father would go to protect his children. And she was about to learn exactly what kind of enemy she'd created. The FBI agent who walked into Principal Martinez's office looked like he'd stepped out of a recruitment poster. Agent David Chin introduced himself while setting up what looked like sophisticated tracking equipment on the principal's desk. Mr. Mitchell, we've been monitoring your sister's social media broadcasts, he said, pulling up Cameron's Instagram feed on a tablet. She's made a critical error. The live streams are geotagged, and we can track her route in real time. I watched the little blue dots marking Cameron's path across the state map, each one representing another mile between me and my 4-year-old son. How long before you can intercept her? That depends on her destination. She's been maintaining exactly 67 miles per hour, just under the speed limit. Very careful, very planned. Agent Chin frowned at his screen. Mr. Mitchell, has your sister ever mentioned contacts in other states? Friends, relatives, anyone who might be helping her? Before I could answer, my phone rang again. This time it was Rebecca. Danny, we have a problem. Cameron's bail was posted by someone called M. Weber for $15,000 cash. Marcus Weber from the Tribune just helped your sister kidnap your son. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Agent Chin, Cameron's not running random. She's got help from a journalist who's been paying her for months. Marcus Weber, Riverside Tribune. Agent Chin was already typing. The Tribune's headquarters are in Knoxville, Tennessee. That explains her route. He looked up grimly. If Weber's involved, this isn't just kidnapping, it's a coordinated attempt to create a news story. They're probably planning to film whatever confession they want to force you to make. Sarah shifted Emma to her other hip, my daughter finally calm enough to speak. Daddy, when Aunt Cameron came to school, she said Uncle Marcus was waiting in the car to take us on a fun trip. She seemed really excited about it. Uncle Marcus? I'd never heard Cameron mention having a boyfriend, let alone someone Emma would recognize as family. Agent Chen's radio crackled with an update, subject vehicle spotted at mile marker 247, still westbound. Tennessee Highway Patrol moving to intercept. But my phone was buzzing with another Instagram notification. Cameron had posted a new video, this one from what looked like a gas station parking lot. Change of plans, big brother, her voice echoed from my phone speaker. Since you involved the FBI, Mason and I are taking a little detour. You have 2 hours to wire $200,000 to the account I'm texting you, plus post a public video confessing to stalking Sarah. If I see any cops, any federal agents, any sign you're not taking this seriously, Mason and I disappear for good. The video panned to show Mason eating a happy meal in the back seat, completely unaware that he was being used as leverage in his aunt's extortion scheme. Sweetie, say hi to Daddy, Cameron's voice cooed. Hi Daddy. Aunt Cameron says we're going on a big adventure. Mason waved at the camera, ketchup smeared on his cheek. Are you and Emma coming too? The video cut off, and Agent Chin immediately got on his radio. Subject stopped at Shell Station, mile marker 251. All units maintain distance, we have a hostage situation. Emma started crying again. I want Mason to come home, she sobbed into Sarah's shoulder. That's when my phone chimed with a text from an unknown number, the account number is below. You've got 90 minutes now because you wasted time with federal agents. Every minute you delay, I drive further from Tennessee. There are a lot of empty roads in Alabama, Danny. A lot of places a little boy could disappear forever. Your loving sister. Agent Chin read the message over my shoulder. Mr. Mitchell, we need to trace this account immediately. The moment she accesses that money, we'll have her exact location. But I was thinking about something else entirely. Cameron had just threatened to make my son disappear forever, the same son she used to babysit, whose birthday party she'd attended, who called her his favorite aunt. My little sister had finally crossed a line I didn't even know existed. I was staring at my phone, trying to process that my sister had just threatened to make my son disappear forever, when Agent Chen's radio exploded with urgent chatter. All units, suspect vehicle abandoned at mile marker 263. Shell station manager reports female and small child transferred to a blue Honda Civic, license plate Delta Romeo 7491. My blood went cold. She switched cars. Cameron planned this. Agent Chen was already coordinating with Tennessee Highway Patrol when my phone rang. Marcus Weber's name on the caller ID. Mr. Mitchell, this is Marcus Weber from the Riverside Tribune. I believe we need to have a conversation about your son's safety. Where is Mason? I kept my voice steady despite wanting to scream. Safe, for now. But Cameron is emotionally volatile right now. She's convinced you're going to destroy her journalism career with these criminal charges. His voice was maddeningly calm. I'm trying to de-escalate the situation, but she's demanding that public confession video within the next hour. Agent Chen was frantically signaling me to keep Weber talking while they traced the call. Marcus, you're a journalist. You have to know this is wrong. Mason's 4 years old, he has nothing to do with whatever story you're chasing. Actually, he has everything to do with it, Weber replied. Do you know what sells newspapers, Mr. Mitchell? Stories about corrupt family court systems that fail to protect children. Cameron's documented months of evidence showing your unstable behavior, your illegal recordings, your stalking patterns. With your public confession, we can expose how dangerous fathers manipulate the legal system. The evidence was fabricated. Some of it, perhaps. But not all. You did make those recordings, didn't you? You did follow your ex-wife to document her activities. Weber's voice took on a lecturing tone. Cameron may have enhanced certain details, but the core story remains true. You're an unfit father who used your accounting skills to game the custody process. Agent Chen slid me a note, call traced to Knoxville. Team's moving now. Look, Mr. Mitchell, Weber continued, I don't want to see Mason get hurt. Post the confession video, transfer the money, and this ends cleanly. Cameron gets her legal fees covered, I get my Pulitzer-worthy expose on family court corruption, and your son comes home safely. You're using a child to extort a confession for a fake news story. I'm documenting how the system protects abusive fathers when they have good lawyers and family connections. His voice hardened. Your sister risked everything to protect those children. The least you can do is take responsibility for your actions. The call ended abruptly, and Agent Chen looked up from his radio with grim news. The Honda Civic was found empty behind a Walmart in Knoxville. Security cameras show Cameron and Mason getting into a white panel van with Tennessee plates. A panel van? Sarah's voice cracked. Danny, that doesn't sound like they're just trying to hide until you pay. Emma tugged on my shirt. Daddy, why is everyone scared? Is Mason really okay? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a new Instagram story from Cameron. This one showed Mason sleeping on what looked like a hotel bed, still in his daycare clothes. The caption read, safe and sound while Daddy decides if his pride is worth more than his son's future. Clock's ticking alarm clock. But something in the background caught my attention. A distinctive lamp with a green shade, and behind it, a window showing part of a neon sign, Hotel Chero. Agent Chen, I said, screenshot the image, can your tech team enhance this photo? I think I can see part of a hotel sign. Within 5 minutes, they'd identified it, Cherokee Lodge Motel, Route 441, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. A rundown place that rented rooms by the week and didn't ask many questions. We'll have tactical teams there in 20 minutes, Agent Chen assured me. But my phone was already ringing again. Cameron's number this time. Clever, big brother. But we're not at that motel anymore. Every time you get close, Mason and I take another little road trip. Her voice was getting more manic. You've got 15 minutes to post that confession video, or Mason learns what it's like to have a daddy who chose his reputation over his son's life. The line went dead, and I realized Cameron wasn't just trying to extort money anymore. She was completely unhinged, and my 4-year-old son was trapped in a car with her somewhere in the Tennessee mountains. Time was running out, and my sister was spiraling towards something that might not end with Mason coming home at all. The breakthrough came from the most unexpected source, Mason himself. At 4:47 p.m., Cameron's Instagram account posted what she clearly intended to be a threatening video of Mason crying for his daddy. But what Cameron didn't realize was that my brilliant 4-year-old had been paying attention to everything around him. Daddy, I want to go home. Mason sobbed into the camera. The man with the beard is scary and Aunt Cameron won't stop yelling at people on the phone. We're at the place with the big chicken sign and the loud train. Agent Chen was already pulling up maps on his tablet. Big chicken sign near train tracks in Tennessee, that's got to be the KFC near the Norfolk Southern Rail Yard in Cookeville. But Mason wasn't done helping. As Cameron turned the phone back to herself, I could hear my son's voice in the background. Why does that man keep writing in his book about me? He wrote down when I cried and when I ate my crackers. Marcus Weber was taking notes. Documenting everything for his story while my sister held my child hostage. Tactical teams are 8 minutes out, Agent Chen reported. But Mr. Mitchell, I need you to be prepared, your sister is posting increasingly erratic content. She's cornered, and cornered people make desperate choices. My phone rang one final time. Cameron's number. Danny, this is over, she said, and I could hear the breakdown in her voice. Marcus says the story won't work without your confession, and the FBI is closing in. So here's what's going to happen. Cameron, please. Just bring Mason to the KFC parking lot and let him walk away. You can run, you can disappear, but let my son go. You destroyed my life, she screamed. I had a business. I had income. I had purpose. And you took it all away because you couldn't handle being exposed as the failure you are. I could hear Mason crying in the background, and Marcus Weber telling Cameron to stay calm and stick to the plan. The plan was never about Mason, I said, finally understanding. This whole thing, the extortion, the fabricated evidence, even taking my son, it was all just content for your story, wasn't it, Marcus? Compelling journalism requires compelling stakes, Weber's voice came through the speaker. The public needs to see how far corrupt fathers will go to maintain their narrative. That's when I heard the most beautiful sound in the world, sirens approaching Cameron's location. Freeze. FBI. Hands where we can see them. The phone line filled with shouting, car doors slamming, and then, blessedly, Mason's voice calling, "Help me. I want my daddy." Agent Chen's radio crackled, "Suspects in custody. Child is safe and unharmed. Repeat, Mason Mitchell is safe." 47 minutes later, I was holding my son in the parking lot of a Cookville KFC while Cameron and Marcus Weber sat in the back of federal vehicles, both facing charges that would put them away for years. "Daddy," Mason said, his small arms wrapped around my neck. "Aunt Cameron said you were bad, but I knew she was lying. Bad people don't let me call them when I'm scared." 3 months later, I had full joint custody of both kids. Sarah and I were working together better than we had even during our marriage, united by the realization that Cameron had been manipulating both of us for nearly a year. The court ordered Cameron to surrender her phone for evidence collection. True to form, she destroyed it in jail, or tried to. What she never knew was that I'd backed up everything during that software update I'd helped her with months earlier. Every conversation with Marcus Weber, every plan to destroy our family, every dollar earned from our pain. It was all there, and it was all evidence. Cameron got 8 years. Marcus Weber lost his journalism license and got 6. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting someone dig their own grave deep enough to fall into it.